So yeah, after climbing Lexicon, it got me thinking whether climbing had evolved to such a level where someone would be capable of flashing a route like that. And as said before, there's so many strong climbers around, but who would have the level of boldness as well as the skill and the strength? That climber would have to be the ultimate all-round package. And I was thinking about this person and thinking, yeah, maybe they're strong enough. Maybe this person, maybe they're brave enough, but they're not strong enough. And I'm whittling away all the options. And then, of course, the only person left on my list is Ad. But obviously I'm not going to blow my cool and like constant because I have climbed with him. He's a really, really good guy. I know the reason I reached that conclusion is because I've seen him climb myself. I've been aiding on routes in the UK, traveling routes, sport routes. I know how good he is. But I'm not going to like ring him up and go, Adam, come and try my route, or even send him a message to that effect. But rather like, it was such not a mad coincidence that I found Lexicon. Maybe it was just destiny, fate, the planets aligning. There was another element of that. I had thought strongly that it would be this amazing, amazing thing if Adam came over to the UK to try and sack Lexicon. But it's like, yeah, what are the chances of him without me contacting him? What are the chances of him deciding that would be a cool thing to do? And then I got the message from him. I mean,
Oh
it's
wow! So
bizarre.
you were actively thinking about
I was totally thinking about it. Oh yeah, I was
wow.
totally thinking
Okay,
about it. But like,
because you
it's just
because Lexicon has seen maybe a few odd ascents
that's right,
since then, right? A
but
handful, but
yeah,
hasn't seen. So hadn't seen like a flash ascent. So in your
exactly,
mind,
exactly. So it was done by Steve McClure, Dave McLeod, Matt Wright, and James Pearson, all who either top roped it or checked it out on an Absar road, before doing it. So it hadn't been flashed, but I thought, and it was in a way, like, why would I even think that? Because E11 is so beyond the current flash level in trad that the reason I thought it was because, climbers like Adam hadn't yet got round to it. There's no one in the UK operating it anywhere near that standard. But it was just a matter of convincing or not. And this is the point. I was never going to play the game of trying to convince Adam because it's just not cool. I mean, Adam gets people, Adam gets people saying all the time, come here, Adam, come there, do this, Adam, do that, and like, he's a guy who makes up his own mind what he does. He's not going to like, in fact, if you ask him to come and try your route, it's probably going to be the kiss of death. He's going to go, no, I'm not bothered about that. Or he's going to be like, sorry, I'm too busy, or, something else. He decides his own path, right? But I've been totally thinking about this. It's like, I know Adam could flash it. I know he's got a really good chance of it. And then I just got this WhatsApp message from him. Could I read it to you?
oh yeah,
Don't know, maybe we should. Yeah, I don't see any reason why not. Adam Ondra. Well, there's quite a lot of correspondence here where we're talking about this and that. To do with the route. There we go. Hello. Hey, let me just check it's okay for me to read this before I do. Hey, Neil, I hope you're doing well. I'm thinking of making a trip to the UK and I'm very keen to try Lexicon. Are you at home midday? Are you at home mid-May? Would you be psyched to join me?
yeah.
You know?
Adam, the student, and yeah, just this devotee of the sport. Just
Absolutely. He knows a good
yeah,
route when he sees one.
yeah.
you
No,
know,
it's incredible, and I'm so and I mean there aren't many people who can, you know, I don't know, climb 15D nobody actually. And then do a bolder V17, then have both the competence and the desire, right, to want to commit to this task.
So the thing is, all the previous ascensionists, as I say, had worked it on a road, okay, or checked it out on Absam at the very least. Now, Adam doesn't say in that message, I want to come to the UK and try and flash Lexicon, does he? He just says, I want to come and try it. But of course, I know what he's thinking. It's obvious that he wants to try and flash it. That's what he's trying to do. And it was not even something that we had to discuss. Like, it was just, until it got down to actually discussing the nuances of the route and the strategy, it was clear that he was going to try and flash it. That was the obvious challenge for him. I mean, it's already been done by, 4 others. It's like, well, he's got to raise the bar, hasn't he?
No, 100%. I mean, you saw right through his intent.
Yeah, of course.
Take us to that day, Neil. Take us to the day at some. I mean, you obviously escorted him, showed him the climb, gave him all the information he needed, likely, but maybe not anymore. So share with us how that took place, and then take us to the moment where you were getting ready to belay him. I believe you did belay him on that climb.
I did. I did. Well, it's a strange game, this game of like hard elite trad climbing. And it can be hard to find belayers, especially these days, with the consequences as they could be. But it's one of those things, it's a little bit like people who run ultra marathons, who it requires volunteers to turn up and man the checkpoints, doesn't it? It's like, if you're a trad climber yourself and people have belayed you, then you have to return the favor and belay others. And, I'm not going to, if Adam's saying that he wants to try my route, really, to be honest, I'm one of the best people, if not the best person to belay him on it, because the margins of holding this fall are so slim. If you put too much slack in the rope, the climber's going to hit the ground. But if you keep the rope too tight, you're going to pull the climber off. It's a really, really critical belay. And I've got some experience there because I've belayed Steve, and Steve, of course, fell off, and I managed to catch Steve 2 meters off the ground. And also I know the moves. I know, I know where the protection goes. Of course I was an obvious candidate to belay at. But the other weird thing is that he didn't actually ask me. It was like, again, it was sort of an understanding between us that, yeah, of course I'm going to do this, And also something that we do is, again, some might argue this is like self-delusion. This is a little bit, reckless or something, but in the game of bold trad, you have to exude confidence. And if you're the climber, you have to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, then you're playing a very dangerous game indeed. And it's like, you have to like kind of understand the risks, embrace the risks, but yet be confident in your ability to deal with them. And you have to do the same as a belayer. Now, once, kind of twice, but certainly once, I went to do a bold trad route with a belayer who was very uncomfortable about the situation. And it was a really, really dodgy experience that we had. I won't go into detail. Now's not the place, but let's just say it proved to me something which I've always really known, which is that you've got to have a belayer who's giving you the right vibes. Now, equally, you don't want some belayer going, yeah, high five, dude. Yeah, you're so rad. Oh, man, you're going to crush it. You don't want that type of shit. That is no good, right? You just want a belayer who's chilled, positive, who's, reflecting your your energy back to you, and who kind of gets it. So yeah, I guess I was clearly like, the obvious person for that task. But because I believe, so much in Adam and in his ability, and I know that he's not going to take on a task like that, like sort of lightheartedly, without fully embracing it. So I've got total confidence in him. But nonetheless, I must say, the night before, it did kind of dawn on me that, what we were going to go and do. And the trouble is with that last move of Lexicon is almost maybe no matter what you do as a belayer, you're not a magician. You can't reverse the forces of gravity. You can't, that with all the will in the world, you saw how close Steve McClure came to hitting the ground, and he weighs like much less than Adam, and he's shorter and a taller, and yet there's still another hard move to go. The last dynamic move is a move higher than Steve got to. So there's a possibility that if, Adam had messed up that last move, something really, really bad could have happened. And even if it hadn't been my fault as such, I'm doing an inverted commas sign there. I would no doubt feel the weight of, I would feel responsible for that for the rest of my life. And also, you know, crumbs, every life is equal, but nonetheless, we can't avoid the facts. And the facts are, he's the most famous climber on the planet, and I had his life in my hands.
And not only that, he's a husband and a father,
Yeah, yeah,
like you are.
yeah. All those things. But I had to just flip it back and go, look, don't let this. It was almost, it was almost overwhelming for me. But I had to just had to do what I would do if it was me. Well, when it was me climbing the route, which is you have to take emotion out of it. You have to be very, very practical about the task at hand. And I was like, is he good enough to get up to that last move, the really dangerous move? You're damn right he is. And in some ways, that's the problem. He's good enough to climb into the dangerous position. So then the next question is he good enough to get himself out of that position? In other words, if he gets there, can he either do the move, or if he thinks that he can't, rather than fluffing it, can he maybe reverse one move and shout take, and I pull him off and he falls 25 meters, but he hopefully misses the ground? Could that work as well? Yeah, that could work. And that's how we spoke about the route beforehand. What we couldn't have was any sort of, it's the classic Yoda, isn't it? It's the do or don't do. There is no try. And that's the way we kind of spoke about the route beforehand. And that was the way he approached it. And sure enough, it all worked out good.
Incredible, Neil. Well, you made this careful, informed assessment Adam's abilities before agreeing to be his partner, his belayer. And like you said, maybe he is the only person or one of the very, very few people who are capable of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
However, as he was climbing and reaching near, let's say the no fall zone, I'm sure there was a lot going on in your mind, Neil. Was there any point of doubt? Yeah, you're so
I think
articulate,
I
Neil. Can
think
you, yeah.
I think the work the toughest part was the bit beforehand. When it's just the pressure is just building and building and building, and you're still all going through a little bit of is this like just kind of like a pantomime, or is this actually really happening? It's like the minute you touch the rock, it was such a relief, because it's like we're no longer thinking about it. There's no more anticipation. It's actually happening now. And really, when Adam as soon as he touched the rock, I know what he's going to be thinking. He's just going to be thinking, get the next hole perfectly, do this move, put this piece of protection in. You know, just process, process, process. But equally for me as a belayer, I'm thinking, I've just got to keep the rope exactly the right tension. I've got to play out the slack now, readjust it, check that I'm stood in check that my stance is stable, you know, like I'm just thinking about not messing it up. And, you know, so, but once I got into that headspace, again, you know, as a belayer, I was more process focused. And then before we knew it, he was on the top. So you're not like whilst he's climbing, having all these like wild emotions. You're just focusing on your job
Yeah.
that you got to do.